picked up another goodie in the sale. I do love it when I pick up a goodie in the sale. Hi guys, it's Summer, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, then welcome to the chaos. I do all things music related on here, from audio engineering style content to production and songwriting challenges to just talking about music and musician life. Today is audio engineering style content again. We're talking about a plugin. Well, actually, we're not really talking about a plugin because the plugin that this uses is just Contact. We're actually talking about a sound library, I guess. Spitfire Audio have done a few little sales and offers recently. They were doing an offer before Black Friday, and I actually picked this up during that offer where they were giving people massive discounts on the entire catalogue, and I had been keeping an eye out for Spitfire Audio doing any sort of deals. They were one of the ones that I was going to have a look at in Black Friday. I literally haven't opened it until now because I've been too busy doing other things to have a little play with it, so we're going to have a little play with it today. So in my recent solo project, you can hear in Rise that there is some pizzicato violin, and that was actually played by me. I played that pizzicato violin, but I'm not good enough at violin to play bowed violin parts or even like really complex pizzicato parts. Like if it gets too complicated, then point being, I like to write violin parts, and I loved having violin in my new project, and I feel like that's part of my sound. For this project, I hired a session violinist, and I probably will go on to hire session violinists again in the future, but it's going to be nice to have some VST options as well, because obviously for every little part that I ever want to write a violin part for, I don't want to have to hire a session musician every single time. Certain instruments, and the strings are one of them, it's still worth having an actual violinist play parts from time to time, depending on what you're doing. But sample instruments have come a long way. Violin, I think, is one of the hardest ones to try and put into samples. I think, you know, drums is one of the easiest. Drums is really easy to make a sample pack of, and an instrument that you can then play in drum parts, and it, you know, it feels like a real drum kit still. Whereas when you start sampling violins and cellos and stuff and putting them in to try and make it work, you lose certain nuances from the performance, and there are so many different articulations for how you can play on violin that a lot of VSTs, that's where they fall short. Anyway, so I treated myself to Spitfire's solo strings library. I went with the solo strings instead of just the solo violin because having all of the strings seemed worthwhile, and it was such a good deal. I was getting 50% off, so it made what is normally like a £300 pack like $175, I think I paid for it, and that is already cheaper than it would be to hire session musicians for all of this stuff. So here it is, and I think I'm actually going to go through with the help stuff. I usually skip over help stuff, but I think I'm actually going to let the plugin try and tell me how to use it for once, because that actually really helps. Cool. So if I just click you, will you go away? Right. And then will I get more help bubbles? Ah, yes, perfect. I wish there was a way to make plugins like this bigger, right? It doesn't make any sense why so many of them on this big screen, they still load. And I can't make it any bigger. See? Why can't I make you bigger? Because that is quite far away from me and quite tricky to read the smaller text on. Like, it could have a smaller version, but it could do with having a bigger version as well. Okay, so we've got all sorts of controls here by the looks of things. Let's just have a quick listen just to how some notes sound. Already I like this better than I've liked some other violin VSTs that I've tried. You know, like the basic ones in Logic, and then also the free labs ones that you can get. Within the orchestra one there is obviously a violin section. For one thing, it's not a solo violin, it's a set of violins. Here we have a whole option for vibrato. Ah, and changing the vibrato also changes not just the vibrato here. It's also controlling the attack on the note. Not like traditional MIDI understanding of attack in the instant point it starts at, because obviously but there's sort of like, you can attack the note on a violin, or you can like really gently go into it, you know? So we've got, if I lessen the vibrato a bit, it eases into it, and then the vibrato starts really going. But if I have the vibrato up quite high, you get more of an attacked note. So this... Okay, so this release is affecting the bit between notes. So if I want a nice clean one, I can bring my release right down. But if I want it quite blending into each other like that, that's quite nice. I like that one. Tightness. Control how tight short notes played. Expression apparently is just the overall volume. which I always find it hilarious when they give me an option like that in terms of controlling this. It's like, because I can control that in so many other ways, it feels like a slightly pointless. Like, I'm not gonna, as I go through. So then we've got, we can bring things closer. I'll have it further away. Very pretty. And then we've got our note types down here. I have absolutely no idea what that even says because it's in swirly writing and it's so small. C. Sword, I think that says. I'm not sure what that's referring to. Oh yeah, you can control. So can you control this with MIDI as well? Can be mapped to a MIDI controller. Cool. So I could map my expression one to a MIDI controller. So you could up and down your vibrato mid-note. Anyway, so what's the difference between this one? Okay. I know what the problem is here. I don't recognize these particular music terms. Why don't I recognize them? Because I've never had that float as an instruction. But that obviously means to very, very gently bring the bow over the strings so it's almost not touching them enough. So that's a really pretty articulation to have. Oh. Okay, are these... I think these are harmonics. Which is why it moved us up the keyboard, because you can only play certain harmonics. Obviously, you can't play every single note in a harmonic on a violin. What we got here? Again, I don't recognise the symbol across the top, so I'm not sure exactly what the playing style is there. Proper staccato, that. Ah, this is like where you literally sort of almost bounce the bow onto the string. Is this pizz? Yeah, that's pizzicato. Just keeps going back to pizzicato. Why does it keep going back to pizzicato? What's pizzicato Bartok? Okay, so it looks like that arrow means that it goes back to this. I can tell something's slightly different there, but I'm not really sure exactly what it's different, what it's actually doing. This is another one. Again, loads of techniques in here because I'm not as advanced a violinist. I don't know these. Oh yeah, harmonics. Just shorter. See, I literally cannot read what that says. I think it might say brush the first bit there, and then CH. Yay! Oh my god, what is that called? Tremolo! That's one you do quite often get in other VSTs. Okay, it's doing a trill. And you get a major and a minor. It sounds weird when you just do that out of context, doesn't it? And obviously, this is just one of the violin sounds we have, because we actually have multiple different instrument sounds in this. So can I just get to... Yeah, I can get to them by just literally going through this. So this is another violin sound. Here's another one. Oh, here's the viola. First cello. And our double bass. So how do I get to the other panels? Because it showed two other panels. Are they here? They're here. Okay. So this is where we can create a little sequencer type thing, I think. Or is this the general? Why won't that open? Ah! We can only do it with certain specific note articulations as well. Okay, so we can do it with our staccato, but not with a regular old normal bowed note. But we can do it with this one. And this one. So we can only do it with the shorter notes by the looks of things. Any of the ones that are designed for a bit more length to them, you can't do it with. I suppose it is designed for being like it said, like an arpeggiator, so I'm not sure how this works. You can add notes to a pattern sequencer, select which key it triggers on, and then play for instant ostinato creation. So I figured out what I was doing wrong. And as you might guess, it was something really obvious. You know, that you have to click it on for it to work. Let's try a different, more complicated rhythm to see if this is actually... Let's try something like that. There we go. So that makes it so easy to do stuff when you want, like, just a bunch of violins, like, doing a chord or something. I mean, I just said that, but I literally... Let's put it into chord mode and see. There we go. I mean, it's not exact because you might want them actually doing longer notes than that. And obviously you can only do it with this staccato one or any of these other short ones. They're the only ones you can use this with. So what does it sound like on this one? Let's just put it on. But it's still a really nice way to have a really simple rhythmic thing going on in violin that I could put in. So I quite like that. I like that mode now that I actually understand how to use it. Okay, let's have a look at the more complex settings here. So this is where we can actually control more of what's going on with the mics. I'm going to put the regular long one on for this. So that's how we can get a much more close mic feel, because this is the close mic here. This is, they said, the tree, which I assume is like an overhead tree of mics. And this is the ambient mic, so this is just a room mic, basically. So I could have a really intimate but with some room feel. Or I can have a much more distant feeling. Even more distant feeling. Ah, this is the bit that changes the articulations. Okay, let's have a quick go at just playing something in, shall we? It has still got a slightly unnatural feel to it, I would say, in comparison to what you would get from a session musician. Again, that's going to take lots of playing around, because part of what then helps you to get the more natural feel with these plugins is being able to actually, you know, play things in and change up all your settings and stuff and getting stuff to really sit the way you want it to. Like, obviously, I've just played in something quickly there. Actually see it drawing something in there as I played it in to change what I was doing on those notes. Is it going to be in the automation, do we think? I'm not going to... Oh, wait, here we go. Contact 7 vibrato. Ta-da! So you'll be able to go in and then alter this with your automation in your DAW. It's going to be the easiest way to get it to actually sound like you want it to be played. I'm going to have a bit more of a play with it, and hopefully maybe by the time I've put this video up, because it's probably going to be a little bit after recording this initial video here before I put the video up. So if I've had a little play with it before then, if I've managed to put something together, I'll give you an example of what I've managed to do with it. Okay, so this is present Emma hijacking past Emma's video. You can tell from the fact that my hair's a different colour. Whoa. Anyway, don't talk about the hair. It wasn't meant to be this pink. I have been playing around with that violin VST more. I'm just going to mute a few things on this track because this is a friend's track I've been working on. And I want to play a little section of some violin that I have actually used that violin VST to do. So I'm going to play you just this little section here over the instrumental, because there aren't supposed to be any vocals in this bit anyway, so I think this would be a good section to show you guys, because I don't want to show you the whole track or ruin anyone. I just want to give you a feel for how I've actually used it in a track. And then it not just solo, but with everything other than the vocal on this track. We're still working on the overall balance of this track still. There's still some mixed stuff that I'm going to be tweaking over the next few days, probably. I think that this track demonstrates well where I feel like this violin VST would actually work quite well for me, because I don't think I would ever use it in place of if I wanted a solo violinist doing a really prominent solo violin part. In fact, even on this track, I might dip this violin down a little bit more, because I think it's working best here because it's one of many things. It's only really sticking out at all in that section there. Throughout the rest of the track, it's sitting much, much behind her vocals on the track. I think that's how this violin VST is going to work best for me, because I think if that were a solo violin part, when I soloed it then and played it, it sort of sounds fine until it's transitioning between notes. And if I'm pretty sure from everything I have read about this VST and all of the playing I have done with it, the one major complaint I think I have of it is that the one articulation I feel I can't do is how you move between notes. Because on a violin, one of the most characteristic decisions you can make about a way to play a part is whether you're going to slur notes or not. Whether you play the notes all in one bow or you stop and all in one bow pull down or push. What's the word I'm looking for? All in one bowing like this, as opposed to going 1, 2, 3, 4, or going da 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 da. Because you can also do that, and again, that's a very different articulation. But the big thing I don't like not having is the ability to slur between notes, because instead you get this. That sounds like if you were a singer, you'd be going ah, instead going ah, and not having that is something that really points out that it's not a real instrument being played. And it does sound quite unnatural, because you would slur that. No one would do a rundown like that in a piece and not have a couple of those notes be slurred together to give it that nice flowy rhythm. And that's how I would want that played. But I couldn't find in the VST any option to do that, and I'm pretty sure it's because it isn't in there. But if I'm wrong about that I haven't seen it in the product description anywhere. But if that is an option and I'm just missing it, let me know. Or if there's a way to like even just make the transitions between notes sound a bit more natural, because that's the other thing I don't like about it at the moment, is that even if that were separate bows, that still sounds a little bit unnatural in comparison to what I know an actual violin would sound like. I'd love to know people who have used other violin VSTs, maybe, you know, the more expensive ones. What are ones that you would say are really worth it and that maybe have the features that I'm talking about here that I would want in a violin VST that this doesn't have? Like, are there ones out there where you have more control over the bowing of the violin as well? But if there is a genuinely good one out there that actually sounds like a violin, I would love to save up for it. I still am not feeling like this is going to fully replace wanting to use session musicians for parts for me, because I think if I had a proper violin solo part, I probably wouldn't want it played on something like this. This is going to be more for when there's lots of different string elements, maybe doing simpler things that I want to put in. This video was mostly just for me. I wanted to have a mess around with this plugin, and I thought I might as well film the process, content out of stuff I was already doing and all that. But if you did enjoy the video, then you might enjoy the content I do on this channel in general, so you might want to hit that subscribe button. But I know that that is a big decision to make, so do feel free to check out some of the other content on this channel before you do so. There'll be something recommended on the end screen. You can also follow me on all of my socials, including my socials for my artist project if you want to see my own original music. There's also a link down there to my Buy Me a Coffee, where there are memberships both for the content on this channel and the content I put out as an artist, and you get exclusives if you join the membership, or you can just send me a one-off donation just to say cool video mate. That's all for today's video. I shall see you guys next time with another fun music related video of some sort. Bye.
Promise me, broken heart, something big.